Yeehaw and welcome to June on the Range here at Disheveled. Didn't get to it last year for various reasons and was disappointed that I missed out on it. June on the Range is my favorite event on BookTube, and so I wanted to do at least one of them. If I can get to another one, I will, but I've been wanting to get to at least one, so I did, and I went big because I did Robert E. Howard's Western Tales. And I, uh, I've had the book for a while. I have it on my Kindle, but so I can't show it to you. But I've had it for a while, and I've been meaning to get to it. And I thought, well, June on the Range is a perfect time for that. So I got to it. I read it. It's a collection of short stories and a few novellas that were really good. And it also has his weird westerns, and it has fragments, and it has stories that he wrote when he was really young. Anything to do with the western theme, they packed into this book, and it was excellent. I The short stories and novellas were fantastic. I really enjoyed. If I had to pick one section, I'd say the regular section of westerns was my favorite. Although the weird westerns were really good too. Uh, it's hard because I can't flip back through uh, the book to get to certain parts to talk about, but since it's on my Kindle, but uh, the uh, the novellas, I believe, The Vultures of Wapitan was a really good one. Uh, you've got a gunfighter going into a town where there's this group called the Vultures that kill people and steal all their gold, and they bring uh, this gunslinger in to be a new deputy to the sheriff and to show they mean business about getting rid of these guys, but nothing is as it seems. And you end up with people getting double crossed and triple crossed and quadruple crossed. And it just, you never, you don't see anywhere it's going. And it was also unique in that it had an alternate ending. You read it with the original ending, and then the alternate ending was just kind of tacked on at the end. It said alternate ending, and then read. I liked it better without the alternate ending, which I think is why they did it separately to show how he wanted to end it. Because the publishers thought that it was too, um, I don't know if it was too nihilistic or what, but it was a down ending, and but it was really good. I really enjoyed it with the down ending, but it was still good if you read and the just a couple extra paragraphs that were the alternate ending. They were good too, but I prefer it without the alternate ending. And I can't remember, there was one other. I'm looking at my table of contents. Uh, I can't remember which was the other one that was the longer one, but there were a few starring the Sonora Kid that were really good, which were interesting because he was in several straight westerns in the beginning of the book, and then at the end of the book, in some of the fragments and some of the stuff of his younger years, the Sonora Kid, it dealt with his family and him being more of an adventurer a little bit later on in time than the Old West. So that was interesting. Steve Allison, I believe, was his name, and I thought there was another book that Robert E. Howard Press has put out that was called The Casebook of Steve Allison. I think that's what it is. If so, then I'm definitely going to have to pick that up because it was really good. The stories of him, but I like the Western ones the best. And you've got all the gold mining, you've got gunslingers, you've got uh, corrupt people trying to take over towns. You just had all the stuff that you expect in a Western, but Robert E. Howard told it in a way that was unique to his style of writing. There was one that took place a little bit later on because the main character was driving a car, but he was explained that he was kind of a man out of time, and I can't remember what the name of it was. I wish I could have marked it if I had the actual book, but it doesn't matter because if you get this book, you're going to want to read all the stories anyway. So, but anyway, this one was particularly good, and the guy is hiding out that commits a sort of a crime, but it just depends on how you look at it. And he deals with not only people chasing after him, but he deals with the weather. And you wouldn't think that that's a big deal, but the way Robert E. Howard describes the weather is just fascinating. The way he talks about the atmosphere and the lightning and the rain and the way it rains, it's very lyrical, and he just has such a wonderful way of describing the weather and how it affects people, and how it affects the chase after him and all that. And it has a really interesting ending too. A lot of his westerns had really interesting endings. And there was another one that was a longer one that had a guy that was part of a group of outlaws because it was all of his brothers, but he wasn't really wanting to be an outlaw, but he was the youngest and had to go along with it. And he comes back to the town that they robbed to try to make good to everybody on it after they've been in Mexico for some time after they robbed this town. And he comes back to try to make good with the people in the town. And it goes in some interesting directions. And I wish I could remember what it was called, but I couldn't mark it because I didn't have the book. But I'm sure you can bookmark it in your Kindle, but I don't know how to find it once you do. So that's that's why I didn't do it. But it was just a really, really fun story, and uh, lots of twists and turns in it. And it was one of the longer ones uh, that was just really, really fun. Um I mean, you've got Tales, The Drums of the Sunset, The Lost San Saba Mine. Some just have the names of people: John Ringgold, Old Pharaoh Bill, Modest Bill, Gunman's Debt, The Devil's Joker. That was a good one. I think that was a Sonora Kid one. The Feud, Knife, Bullet, and Noose, Lost Shooters of Cowtown. I mean, you've just got lots of wonderful, wonderful works in this collection. And there was another one about this guy who wants to die because he's such a coward, but he's too much of a coward to kill himself. So he comes up with an interesting way to kill himself, but nothing turns out the way he thinks it will. And it really was a really fun story. I can't remember again what it was called because I'm just going through the Kindle as I go, but it was a fantastic story. It was a shorter story, but it was about, but this guy, he wants to die, but he's too much of a coward to kill himself. So he concocts this plan on how to die, and it just does not go in any direction you think it's going. And it's really funny too. There's a lot of funny moments in his westerns. He has some humor. A few of them also have Grizzly Elkins, who is uh, I think a cousin or something to Breckenridge Elkins. That's in his some other humorous western stories. I'm pretty sure Robert E. Howard Press is going to come out with a book of those sometime soon, hopefully, because I'd like to read them. Uh, but Grizzly Elkins is a fun character, and he shows up in a few of the stories. And he's just this big burly guy that is a trapper and uh, wears animal skin clothes and just is a is a good guy at heart, but also a fierce fighter. And those were really fun when Grizzly Elkins showed up. But anyway, fantastic Western stories. Didn't talk about the weird Westerns. There's one of the early Westerns, the weird Westerns, the Horror from the Mound. That was the first one in here. It was really good. He there's the main character's name I cannot remember. Uh, Robert E. Howard reused names a lot in these stories, so you kind of get confused. Is this the same character or is it just a different character? So that was the only downside I had to anything in this, is that he just liked to use similar names, so that you kind of wondered, were they related or were they not? But a lot of them weren't. But the Horror on the Mound was a story about this guy who's living on prospecting and not having much luck, and he thinks that there's this burial mound, and there's a Mexican guy who walks home every night from his plot of land that he's growing things on, and he makes as wide a berth around this mound as he can every time. And the guy asks him, he said, "Why do you go so far out of your way to go around this mound?" And he's like, "Senor, I can't tell you. I've sworn never to speak of it." And he's like, "Well, surely, come on, you can tell me," and all this. And he's like, "No, I cannot speak of it." He's like, "Well, I tell you what, why don't you write it down? There's nothing against that, is there?" Which I thought was pretty smart. And the Mexican guy was like, "Well, no, there isn't anything that says I can't write it down." He's like, "I will write down why you cannot dig into this mound, and I will give it to you tomorrow." Well, the guy that is Wade decides he can't wait, and he's like, that Mexican's an old fool. I'm going to dig up this burial mound and find out what's in it, because there's probably a treasure or something inside of it. Well, he definitely doesn't find treasure, but it's very interesting what he does find and what happens because of it. But it's a really good story, really fun. Valley of the Lost, The Man on the Ground, Old Garfield's Heart. That was a really good one too. This guy that these people have known as Old Garfield for like 50 years, and he was already 50 when he was first in that area, and he seems to have been around there forever, but he doesn't seem to get any older, and nobody knows why. But it's a really good, really creepy story. The Thunder Rider is a good one. It has a guy who is part Indian, Native American, whatever you want to call, and uh, he's having these dreams of violence, basically, and he's afraid he's going to do something violent because he's got these urges to do it, and he doesn't know why. And he goes to try to find out what from uh, a Native American medicine man, what what's causing this, or how can I get around doing this because I'm afraid I'm going to hurt somebody and I don't want to. And what he finds out on his past lives is really interesting, and just a really interesting, fun story. Um, his weird ones were almost more horror than Western. It just had a Western kind of setting to it. But lots of great stories. Even the fragments were good. You read them and you wish, man, I wish he would have finished this because it was so good to read. Even just some of the snippets are only like a page and a half, but some of them have, you know, 8 pages or 20 pages or 30 pages, and you read them and you're like, wow, I really would like to have, if him to have finished these. But anyway, I've taken enough of your time. Robert E. Howard's Western Tales, check it out. Great June on the Range read. It's absolutely fantastic. You won't be sorry you got it. And I hope you check it out. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you next time.